Hello everyone and thank you for joining me. For today's scribble, I am planning to use a fountain pen that I have a little bit of love and hate relationship. I'm kind of confused about the fountain pen so much that I end up actually buying two of them just to make sure that is not in my mind. And even after getting two of them, I'm still unsure if I like them that much or if I would recommend them, to be honest. What I really love about them is their designs and how they look like and how they feel in hand, or I better said the original feeling that you get when you're handling them but not actually using them. The first one that I got is this one that you see right now, which has a combination of abalone shell and carbon fiber on the cap and on the barrel. And as you can see, the converter is also screwed in converter, but those are Schneider converters as far as I know. The balance in hand, it's actually pretty good. I love the cap, the magnetic cap that he has and how he posts and caps. I don't know how well it seals, because so far every time I used it until the ink was empty, so I never really left it for a couple of days sitting on a shelf and see how well it seals. The other one that I got, the second one, first of all I got a little bit lucky and I got it at a discount, but I decided to get the all carbon fiber version. And what I like about this one is that the shiny parts that are on the other one are actually black anodized. And that actually helps. It does give the fountain pen a little bit more of a grip. So the portion that I'm kind of hate, like I mentioned, I do love the design. I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. But I really hate that section on it. And it kind of brings it to a point where I'm not sure if I like using it. And because of that, I can't really actually recommend that without a huge warning sign. The section is very short, but the step up between the section and the barrel, it's quite abrupt and quite big. And that's why I can't really recommend it. The only way that I found it comfortable for me to hold is by having my pointer and my middle finger on the section while my thumb actually rests on the body of the pen. And that kind of creates a very awkward feeling in hand and something that will 100% break or make, depending on your case, how this pen feels in hand. I'm kind of willing to put up with it because I like the design of it. It's just I can't really recommend it. I find it the most annoying for writing, specifically because when I write, I like to hold my hands a little bit closer towards the nib, and as such it puts me in the position where I have to have two fingers on the section while my thumb is on the body. And even though I'm doing that, it feels a little bit uncomfortable, and at the same time it feels like I don't have control over how I write. Not that my handwriting it's that pleasant to begin with, but the awkward position that I have holding it doesn't help either, making my letters any better than they already are. I do like it to use unposted, but I find it maybe a little bit too short. If it would have been slightly longer, I think it would have been perfect. But at the same time, if you posted, and it would have been a little bit longer, you would have made it even more top heavy. Posted is definitely quite top heavy because of the magnets and the metal pieces that are inside the cap. I mean, I understand that because of the magnet that it has in there, the design of the section has to be in a certain way in order for the cap to clear the section. But I don't know, considering that this is not the only fountain pen where they use magnets on the cap, and I know the other design made in such a way that the section and the cap can fit very nicely without a huge bump between the section and the barrel. They could have probably worked out the design a little bit more. I don't know. Bottom line is, it's definitely finicky. It's a fountain pen that you should probably try first before purchasing it. Don't do what I did. That being said though, for the drawing part, I love this fountain pen because my hand doesn't have to go anywhere near the section and it's always on the barrel. I do like it. I find it extremely comfortable. So I enjoy it for drawing. I don't really like it for writing. And this is where my, I guess, love and hate relationship is with this fountain pen. I will probably reserve it mostly for drawing and sketching rather than writing for my personal use. Or better said, for how I use and how I hold usually fountain pens. On the fountain pen that I'm using right now, the nib that I have, it's an Omniflex nib. I don't know if you cut it up during the writing sample, but even after filling it up, I had some issues with starting to write. It looks like maybe the nib and the feed are not aligned properly. I'm not gonna blame it on the fountain pen. I'll have to take it apart and fix that. But once I started writing, the nib actually was very wet. I'm using the same ink that I used for the Honda Young Forest Rainbow fountain pen. What I thought that maybe the ink was drier, but actually turned out to be probably the nib rather than the ink, because on this setup, actually the nib was very wet and very flowy. As a side note, this nib, because it was paired with the wrong feed, it didn't use an actual Yovo feed, this Omniflex nib, I had to actually heat set the nib and the feed together in order for them to work properly. There was a huge gap between the tines, and that was because of the profile of the feed that was pushing against the tines and basically splitting them apart. Once I fixed that issue and he set it, the nib worked perfectly and the alignment was perfect. I think I need to create a video on how to basically heat set your feed and nib when you have these tine splitting issues. A lot of times it's not the actual nib, it's the feed. And what I noticed that a lot of people misdiagnose this problem and then trying to then reshape the nib around the feed when it should be the other way around. You should heat set the feed to match the profile of the nib. I think I might do that as a video following up the BE6, how to care and maintain your BE6 or BE fountain pens. I'll do an update on how to upgrade nibs and what to consider and how to do things like that. Anyway, with the nib aside, I made it work. I realized afterwards that the nib basically has to go a little bit deeper inside the nib unit, but that will also mean that I'll have to heat set the nib and feed again, because most probably it will create the same issue once I push the nib a little bit deeper inside the nib collar. With those issues aside though, the fountain pen actually worked out really great. Omniflex nibs are definitely one of my favorite nibs, and as you've seen from the writing sample, you can actually get a little bit of flex out of it, and you can have some nice playful lines if that's what you are into. And I don't know if you remember, but at the end when I wrote the minimum word in there, I forced it in such a way to dump as much ink on the page just to see how much ink it's gonna put on the page, but at the same time how long it will take for the ink to dry if you dump a lot of it on the page. And even after 3 hours, that ink was not fully dry, it was still smudging slightly. In order to put it back into my booklet, I actually had to use the paper towel that I used to clean the nib in order to absorb the extra ink that was still sitting on top of that word. Otherwise I would have not been able to put it in the booklet. That's how wet it was. And that, I guess, that also highlights the characteristics of this ink. It takes a while for it to properly dry, depending on the paper you have and how absorbent it is. Issues that I didn't actually have during the drawing. Everything turned out to be pretty cool. I love the ink flow when I didn't have the starving issues, and I loved how well I could actually use this nib on this paper, and how I could layer the ink over time. Because it was sitting a little bit more on the page, and it took a little bit for it to dry, it kind of forced me to jump from one spot of the drawing to a different spot of the drawing, and then come back once the ink was dry enough for me to come with a different layer on top of it. Fortunately, on this paper it didn't take as long as on the Muji paper to dry, because it's a little bit more absorbent. The progress of the drawing was pretty good. Again, I started with something that I didn't really plan for. I kind of was inspired by a shape that I've seen in a cloud at one point in time. I thought I saw like a funny, derpy, cute little thing, and that's what I was trying to recreate in here. So I did had some sort of an idea, but I didn't have a full grasp on how I wanted to execute it. That's why I started with the eyes first, and then I kind of expanded from there. This thing turned out to have a pretty weird mouth. At one point in time I wasn't sure if that is supposed to be an arm or part of the mouth, but I decided to go with the mouth, and that made it as a very weird flexible mouth, I guess, that will have to go over the top of the top part of the head. Again, not 100% how it fully functioned. The main idea for me was, after I laid in just the quick lines to sort of build a shape, after I did that, my main focus was just to sort of try and do smooth transitions and make believe that all these shapes actually they're somehow connected to each other, and they somehow magically work. How do they work? I don't know, but obviously it exists on paper, so if this thing is real somewhere in the universe, it works somehow. Or at least leave it to your imagination on how this little creature might exist and function. One thing that I wasn't 100% happy is at the beginning I wasn't 100% sure what to do with the area right between the eyes and how it works on the snot, I guess that would be a snot, and I kind of darkened that a little bit more than I would have wanted to, just because I was trying to save it somehow, but eventually I built up too much, so it ended up to be a little bit darker than I wanted it to be, and that's the only thing that I kind of wish I would have been able to redo it. Other than that, the rest of it turned out exactly how I wanted it to be. I guess this is another being that just floats somehow. Like usual, this was another fun drawing. It took me about or close to 3 hours to actually complete. And as a fun thing, I used up all the ink that I had in the converter. That's how much I enjoyed working on the details for this thing. Like I mentioned, I wish I could have done the part in between the eyes a little bit better, but something that I'll try and do better next time with the next creature that I will be doing. I literally stopped doing the drawing when I actually ran out of ink, which was actually quite a happy incident, because it ended right when I was signing the paper with my name and the date on the other side of the paper, and it was like planned. It took exactly 3 hours, and it was fun, like I said. Anyway, I think I'm starting to repeat myself and I'm kind of babbling a lot. Bottom line, a very confusing pen for me. I love the design of it. I love the gothic feeling that it has. And from the designer's point, I think it's a wonderful fountain pen. Functionality-wise, might be some challenges. So before you decide to buy it, I definitely recommend you to try it. With that said, thank you for joining me today, and I wish you a wonderful day or night, wherever you are. Take care. Bye.